this one, car's re-cleared. We started wet sanding and buffing on it this weekend. Put in the dash pad, and I mess up the hood, and the hood's got to be repainted. So let's get into this one. Alrighty guys, so I think it's about time to set this pad in, that plastic pad. So I did have to trim it around the gauges because these holes are like perfectly round and the gauges are more like oblong. So I had to trim it on both sides. They give you this silicone stuff to basically you just put it like along the top here and then a couple spots down below. But where this wraps down and underneath, I'll show you when I get going. The glove box actually hides a large section up underneath. So I'm actually just going to put small self-tapping screws in there. Just little like interior trim piece screws up in there. But up here, I'm just going to go ahead and panel bond it together. And I'm not going to be like slathering the whole thing with panel bond. It's just basically about that far up, about an inch and a half up, because when I slide that piece over, some of it's going to come pushing out along that this seam right here. So I figure I'll get this done now because it's not going to hurt anything when I go to re-clear this, but it'll be one more piece up into the car, and that's important to me. So what I'll do is I'll kind of put you over here-ish to see what I'm doing. Now I have the tape here. I'm going to wrap the tape around the windshield wiper arm that sticks out of the cowl, and then I'm gonna wrap it around this way to hold this top section down as it sets up. So I'm hoping this is gonna work because that silicone goopy stuff they give you, I don't know, for some reason I don't trust anything silicone-ish. You know, silicone sticks to nothing, but it sticks to everything. So meaning that, yeah, it'll stick for now, but that's gonna be like blaring sun's gonna be beating through that thing. I just don't want that silicone to eventually just start lifting off stuff. The dash, pad stuff, or the plastic. And it will happen, trust me. I've come from a long line of silicone using people from back in the day, right? Okay, so I've got my panel bond loaded up in the gun. I'm going to push a piece right across that. I'm going to run a bead. I've got my thinner and a rag just in case to wipe up whatever may need to be wiped up. Or as we go, we'll figure out what else we need to do as we put it together, right? This is kind of a learning process for me too. I've never done these little plastic dash pad covers. I've been looking online to see, some people have luck with them, some people don't, and a lot of it is the failure of that silicone stuff. So give me a second, and I'll be right back. So we are loaded up. This corner right here keeps wanting to lift. The whole thing wants to twist. So probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop a little screw right here. Now, kind of hold that in place for now. Okay, this is probably going to be unwise, but I'm going to run a bead all the way along that top. Alright guys, so yeah, that thing isn't exactly curved to the dash. I mean, it's pretty good overall, right? But the whole key here is to keep that front lip down with weight. That's the weight that I used. So it takes about, I don't know, about 4 hours to set up, so I don't have this dangling montage of weight sitting on that dash. I'll come back in about 4 hours and I'll take that all off. Yeah, again, I don't know if I did this right, but I have a feeling that this isn't gonna come up off that front part of the cowl or the dash. So we'll give it a little bit, and then we'll come back and we'll take that off. And like I said, when it comes down underneath, actually, let me show you. Okay guys, so we are inside. So this part right here is actually underneath the dash. So I can put like 1, 2, 3 screws right there, right? Maybe one right here to bring that one in. I'll probably put 2 underneath here, and then probably 1 here, and then 1 on the same over there on the same side. So there'll be small little black screws. So I had to trim this right here, and then inside the buckets I had to trim all 3 of them right there on both sides, so it would fit up in there. But overall, she's a pretty good fit. Once this all sticks to it and sets up, and that's what I did. I ran this little tiny screw right here, but I panel bond all up in there, and then all along the edge down, pushed it down. Bob's your uncle, hopefully it'll stay. Once I get that all off, we will certainly see if it stayed. Now, if obviously that looks shiny versus the flat, if I have to tape this off along the top and just blow in a little bit of the hot rod black through there, I have no problems doing that. But not too shabby. So I'll put the other screw here probably, and probably another one right there. Boop. Just to kind of close it up. Alrighty. Alrighty guys, so it is in. So down below, 1, 2, 3, 4. And from up top, you don't even see them. This is about eye level for me. But yeah, and that's pretty sturdy right there. I ran a bead right here along this X section right here, so when I pushed it up against there, it would hold it right there. But yep, down there there's no movement. And here, there's no movement. So that's pretty awesome. You can see it right there. It's a little up. And overall, it's flat, flat, flat. And then it goes a little up right there. But that's better than the dash that was all ripped up. The dash underneath had some humps. Anyway, it's a fix for a cracked up dash, and it works out great. And then once you get these pieces, these side pieces that come in right here, that actually will cover that because it pops into here and then it rests right in there. But that's going to be good. Good morning, guys. Okay, so it's Sunday. So I was looking back on the video so you don't get messed up with the timeline that I recorded yesterday, Saturday. As you can see yesterday, I started wet sanding and buffing the roof and the quarter, and then it started going down in the hood. Last weekend, after I finished the headlight buckets and stuff like that, I posted up the video on it. But on Sunday, I decided to sand the whole car down with 800, and then I threw it in the booth, and then I re-cleared it. So it's got 3 more coats of clear. I didn't record it because of a couple reasons. One, I already recorded it, and 2, it took me a while to clean all the overspray off my camera / phone. So anyway, so I've got 3 more coats of clear over that, so it's sanded with 800, then 3 more coats, and now I'm wet sanding and buffing it. It's only been a week, a week since I re-cleared it, so the clear isn't soft, but it's off-gassed enough where when I buff it, it'll be a lot better to melt in, as you can see. So what I did is, and I'll put in, it took me probably 4.5, 5 hours yesterday to sand what I sanded, and I still have to do the sides. They're only done in 1500, so I have to come up. But what I do is I go with 1500 wet, and then 2000, and then 3000. And I go that steps. If I had 5,000, I would use it. But I go with that steps because the shinier it is when you're about to buff it, the easier it is to melt it all in. And with the roof being so tall up, and I may or may not have a little bit of a back issue holding a buffer out there, which you'll see in the video, it kind of eats up my lower back. That's why I did the roof first, because for me that's the hardest part of the whole car. I don't like buffing at all, and normally I don't flat sand, meaning like, you know, like a gloss, or not gloss, but more of like a mirror down the sides and the roof. I kind of like, for me personally, I like that little bit of orange peel that's in vehicles. I mean, some vehicles, as I'm looking at my Frontier, that's got a lot of orange peel and it's kind of dull looking. But these kind of cars, for some reason, I just like a little bit of orange peel because it grabs the light just right. But for this, we are flat sanding it and buffing it. I'm using the 3D, it's called the 3D buffing system. You can get it off Amazon. It's relatively inexpensive, actually. I mean, a quart, hold on. Now this is my bottle of electrolytes my wife brought out. But like a quart of it is like 30 bucks, I think it was, off Amazon. About that size. And they also have a polish, so I haven't polished it yet. This is just buffing it. They also have their own versions of wool pads and polishing pads, which is a foam pad. And they're thinner, you know, and it's Velcro. But they're thinner than like what a lot of people are used to using, like old school, meaning like the 3M Perfected finishing stuff. Those are real thick pads. The thinner ones are a little easier to get into those areas like that and around anything small, right? So that's kind of small. And all those areas like this, here, right here, inside deep, and usually like these parts, I don't hit it with the 1500. I just hit it with the 2000 and the 3000. Because once you get going with a buffer at whatever RPM you use it at, sometimes the buffer will catch this, the drip rail, or catch items, right? I've seen so many antennas get ripped off from people buffing, and the buffer catches it and flings it off because they sanded right up close to the antenna with a heavier grit. So you got to get in there to buff it. And with 2000, 3000, it's a lot easier to hit those areas right here, because you just kind of bring it in there and just kind of float it in, if that makes sense. So today I think I'm going to be working on the hood. I'm going to finish wet sanding that out and buff that, and then the sides are no big deal for me because I can sit, and that makes sense. Hood, trunk. The trunk I've got off the car, it's over there, but the hood and the roof is all standing and stretching. Now the other thing, if you notice here, you see where I stopped sanding. I don't, again, this is a personal thing, I don't usually wet sand and buff any lower, or I'm not going to on this car. Down there is completely smooth and flat. It's really the top surfaces, because of the second time around it wasn't so bad. I got specific filters for air intakes. I got a couple from work, and the one side is sticky. Let me show you those. Back. So these filters right here are specifically for air intake. So this filter right here is the side that's facing you inside the booth. This back side right here is where the air goes through. So this right here is actually sticky, so it catches all the dirt that may be coming through. I have two of these up top. Actually, I have 4 total, but I got 2 of them up top, and they are right between the fan tube that's up there and the dump. So these are now catching any kind of dirt that may be coming through, that the thinner filters, like the ones that catch the particulates that go out, that's more airy and more free flowing, we'll say, for material to be exhausted out. So this really helped a lot, and that was really, well, the whole point was re-clearing it the second time, not only put more clear on it, but he was going to do that white stripe down it, and we are not doing the white stripe, as I had explained before. Let me put that over there. So anyway, I was looking at the video yesterday, and when I was trying to explain everything that I just explained, it seemed really all over because I didn't have everything with me to show you. So I'm like, here, there, going there, over there. So I wanted to jump on this morning first thing and make sure I explained what the process was. So we're going to get back after it today. It's going to be a chill day today. My back is still a little touchy, my lower back, because of that, which I knew exactly that was going to happen. That's why I hate wet sanding and buffing. So today's going to be a chill day. I'm going to be working on the hood over there for sure, get that all smoothed out. I do see a couple spots on the roof that I need to go back over it and buff it. After a while, the buffing pad, I don't want to say it gets soaked, but it gets wet, and it's not as effective when it's kind of wet, right? So last night I cleaned out the buffing pad. It's actually right over there, ready to go. I cleaned it out, so today it's back, it's dry, and it's clean, so it should cut again. On a car like this, personally, I've only got one with me, or it would be like 1, 2, 3, 4, like 4 pads I would use to continuously go. You know, one for the hood, one for the roof, and then one down each side. That would be ideal. And then with the polishing pad is just a really thick foam pad.
that goes pretty quick because the buffing pad does all the work. Polishing is just kind of protecting it, right? Yeah. And I have no worries since I have no worries wet sanding and buffing this within a week, because it's melting in very nice. Like, it's doing exactly as I wanted it to do, right? And plus, on the first one, on the first set of painting, everything's settled. You know, the base, the clear, it all settled in. It's been like a month, and it's not moving. Whatever was there, it's done. Off gassing, done. So with this, I'm just wet sanding and buffing it. That's what I'm doing. We're getting this project rolling out here. So with that, I will put in yesterday's progress that I did. Shows the process of how I'm wet sanding and buffing all this. In between each stage of wet sand, I go back over it. I don't have any windows in it, so I can't wash it. I go back through and I wipe it down. I have a bucket of water with some microfiber cloths in it. So I wipe it all down and then I dry it, and then I go to the next phase of wet sanding. And then I do that in between every layer of wet sanding. And then with buffing, I clean up every area that I buff. The 3D system is a little different than your traditional heavy rubbing compounds. It stays greasy, meaning like if you've ever used a 3M, I refer to 3M because that's usually the standard. The 3M buffing stuff, when you throw the compound down, it's gritty, right? And then you buff, you put swirls in it because that's just how the system works. And then it's dry. Like when you run it through, there's no more compound. It's like, okay, let's go to the next section. With the 3D stuff, I don't know if it's a part of their technology, but it stays moving, meaning it has a little bit of a, it seems like it's a little greasy, right? I don't know if that helps with lubrication of it all to not give you swirl marks, but you have to do like a section. You'll see in the video a section of it. I'm just kind of explaining it because I time-lapsed everything because it's, you know, 4.5 hours. I got it down to 7 minutes. So with that, you have to go with a microfiber and you have to clean it and then look at it. And then if you need to buff more, you buff more, and then you clean it, and then you look at it. If it's right, then you move to the next section. And that's how that system goes. Because if you were to sit there and buff it, you will sit there and heat up that panel so much because you're trying to melt in the rubbing compound, and it's not melting in. Like, you're not getting a dry surface until you wipe it. Once you wipe it, you see it, it's like, oh, and it wipes right off. Like, it's not hard at all. So anyway, so that's me explaining everything that I explained yesterday before I started, but I'm not going here to get this or here to get that. I mean, I watched it and I was like, oh my God, that's all over the place. I gotta fix that. So anyway, so I'm gonna put in yesterday's progress, and then after that, we'll start with today's progress. And while you're watching that for 7 minutes or so, I'm gonna be wet sanding and buffing and doing my stuff. So we'll be back and enjoy yesterday's progress.
Alrighty, so here we go. I despise buffing so much. I don't even own a buffer anymore. I sold mine 7 years ago to my boss, which is what this one is. So anyway, so here we go. Doesn't really require much, just a little bit. So now I gotta do that with everything. Okay, so there's a quarter in the roof. I still have to sand the other quarter, but I've been buffing on this for about 5 hours. I really don't like buffing. I'm not a spring chicken, I guess, anymore, so for me personally, yeah, I wish I could have someone else buff this. But anyway, so let me swing you around and I will show you how it looks. So there it is. Yep. Hi. But anyway, so we got that. I don't know if the camera's really picking it up, but right there. Super shiny. And then this side, I stopped buffing right here. So I have to finish sanding this side down, hood, but the roof is the most time consuming and painful for me because of my lower back, I'll just be honest. Anyway, so with that buffing pad, I have to wash it. It's the only one I have. So I'm gonna have to wash it and then dry it. So I'll be back on it tomorrow. So we will catch you in the AM. So with these little groovy parts right here, I usually just take a block and then I'll wrap it, spray a little water on it so I can get inside that groove. So honestly, the DA with the 1500 is pretty good for like super flat panels. But you know, the fenders are curved like that. You try to get in there with the DA, but yeah, it doesn't quite set in there. So sometimes you just have to do it the old-fashioned way, which is wet sanding by hand. I actually kind of enjoy wet sanding by hand versus using the DA, but you know, so it's just different ways that you feel like doing it, right? So I'm just giving you different ways to do it, but definitely flat surfaces, you can't really beat it. I mean, it actually kind of feels like sometimes it takes longer to use the DA because you're not kind of honing in on one area. Whereas this, if I see a piece of trash, I can, as I'm wet sanding it, I can just a little bit more pressure. I don't know, after a while you kind of get the feel for it. It's hard for me to just say, oh yeah, you know, I just go after it and you'll be fine. But after doing it for so long, you kind of get the feel for it, right? Which is like anything else. Once you get the feel for it, you got it, muscle memory, and that's how it is. I don't remember the last time I buffed an entire car, honestly. But yeah, this is gonna be something else. I probably won't finish it all this weekend. I do this in sections because that's how my body works. Okay, so I'm gonna continuously wet sand this. I'm not gonna keep recording me wet sanding because I mean, let's be honest, it's you know, it's like watching paint dry, right? I can set the camera up there and you can just watch it dry, but it's not too exciting. So once I get back, once I get this whole front clip wet sanded, we'll get back after it with the buffer, and then I'll bring you in on those kind of techniques, because yesterday I didn't really get into the techniques of what I do with the buffer to try to minimize swirls and stuff like that, and that kind of works with all kind of products out there, not just this 3D stuff. There's an advantage with the 3D, like I talked about, it stays greasier, so you know, you don't get swirls. But we'll be back after I get this front clip all wet sanded out. Now we'll go over it with 3000. Over with 3000, you notice that the water acts different. You don't see a lot of the white, which is the white is actually the clear that you're taking off. 1500, lots of white. 2000, not as much as the 1500, but with the 3000, I think the 3000, if you go from 3000, 4000, 5000 grit, you're basically starting to polish it, you know, like buff it, basically. Because you can see how shiny that is. Just like the just like the roof was yesterday. So that's where I'm going to start. I'm going to start in the center and work around. In the center, work around, and then work around. Because on the fenders, I know I'm going to be leaning across it. I mean, I don't have anything Sharpie on me. You know, I move my keys back, but it's basically so if I start on this side, work to the middle, middle to that side. This side might get a little, I don't want to say scratched, but it may get scratched because I'm leaning over on it. So, my buffer pad's clean. I've got my 3D rubbing compound. So I am going to start on the hood and go that way, and go here, and go this way. I am going to cover the dash with paper and stuff like that because I do not want the rubbing compound all up in the dash grain things. Because, oh, I don't think I showed you. I put in the dash pad. Yep. So anyway, I've got a little clip of that. Anyway, so let me start buffing it. Let me not get confused with ADHD and tell you about the dash pad. So I'm going to grab the buffer, set you up, and then I'm going to start buffing it. And then once I show a little bit of buffing, then time lapse, then I'm just going to go after it. A little bit on buffing, since I'm here. So on any buffer, I'll tell you right now, these Machitas are amazing. This thing is probably 17 years old. This used to be my old buffer at work many years ago. I sold this to my boss when he first started out with having a detail department. He needed some buffers, so I said, oh, I never use mine, so I'll sell it to you. So I sold it to him. But I sold it to them. They used it for about a year, and then it just kind of came back over to our side, meaning on our side, it's just like an extra buffer for. We have a specific guy that Wetsand and Buffs our work after we do it. So sitting there, and I said, hey, I'm going to take the buffer home, and he's like, well, it's your buffer anyway, so yeah, have fun. Okay. So the only thing with this buffer is that the dial here, it likes to walk. I keep it around 3 on the setting. I don't go much higher than that. I don't feel that I need to spin this thing up so fast that it's just crazy, right? But whenever you buff anything, you always want to keep the buffer as flat as possible. The more you tip it, the more it will cut in, obviously. But also, the more you can create swirl marks because you're just digging deep into it. As far as travel, either tipping it this way or this way, you'll get it as you go. One angle may be better than the other, but generally you try to keep it as flat as possible. Okay, so that's the explaining of buffing. So let me go grab the compound and then we'll get after it. Again, super boring part. Most tedious out of everything, buffing. Okay guys, so buffing on the hood. There's a spot on the hood that the buffer dial doesn't have clicks, so it doesn't like stay. I showed you that's the only thing wrong with the buffer. Well, as I was buffing it, I don't know if my hand hit the swirly thing, or the speed rotation, RPMs, or if it just did it all by itself because it's all loose in there. But it spun up real fast and just heated up one particular section to make the bubble paint up, the paint bubble up a little. So I'm going to show you that. And I'll definitely have to repaint the hood just to fix that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet sand and finish buffing the rest of the car, and then take the hood off again, and then just fix it and paint it. You know, I'm going to buff everything and wrap it up in plastic, stick it on the other side, and then fix the hood. So let me show you this. So it looks pretty good right there. So right, it's hard to focus it. See it? That bubble right there? It just heated right up and went bloop quickly, like quick. And so it's got to be fixed. So probably that's got to be blocked out, most likely primed because the amount of material that's on this car. But yeah, so I just finished buffing this fender. And buffed that fender. So I have that door, that quarter, and this door I got to finish wet sanding and buffing. But like I said, it's not the end of the world. It is what it is. But we're just gonna fix it because that's what we do. So I'm gonna finish wet sanding that door, buff it, do the other side, buff it, and then we'll be back. Quality control. Alright guys, that's going to wrap up this weekend. So, recap. Wet sand and buff the car. Jack up the hood, that's got to be repainted. But yeah, other than that, it went great. I'll actually swing you around real quick, and we will walk down the sides of the cars, and everything is beautiful except the hood. Alright guys, so everything is wet sanded and buffed, and this is like the first stage of buffing. So actually I have to go over this with the polish, but I'm not going to do that today because it's already like 5 o'clock. But not too bad. There it is. Door, roof, and the fenders. So yeah, that sucks. So the hood's got to be redone, but that's okay. I'm gonna pull it off. Let me spin you around here. Okay, we're spun around. So the trunk, which is sitting right there, I still have to sand that and re-clear that. I didn't put it in with the rest of the stuff last weekend, well, last Sunday, because why cramp myself, right? So, since I'm not painting anything, so I still have to re-clear the trunk right there. So now, since I got to re-clear the trunk anyway, the hood is going to come back off. I'm going to fix that spot up there probably next weekend, but the first initial buffing, wet sanding and buffing is done, and like I said, I still have to polish it, which is the foam pad, but that I'm going to do that a little bit down the road. So I'm going to pull the hood off, and then I'm going to try to get the glass guy back out here so we can get, because he's got a new windshield, to get the new windshield put in and then get the rear glass put back in. So maybe he'll come out next weekend, I don't know. I got to call him and schedule that in. But everything else is fantastic. It's actually moving right along. Now it's like I said before, it's like the 10% of the leftover stuff. But I knocked out a lot of that in the last couple weeks. And then, yeah, I want to do the rear package tray rug area. He brought over some material that he wants me to cut and put in the back of that package tray. I want to do that before the back window gets put back in, because it's easier accessible from the outside, you know, putting it in instead of trying to crawl up in there and stuff like that. So probably what we'll do is when we take the hood off, I'll probably wrap it up in plastic. I'll probably park it back over on that side of the shop, so it's out of the booth area, so I can do the hood and the trunk. Yeah. So thanks for tuning in and watching this another exciting episode of me messing up the hood, so I have to get to repaint that again. But yeah, no, on a serious note, thanks for coming in. Really appreciate all you guys that come in and still take a peek at what I'm doing. But yeah, make sure you go out there and build something cool, because you know what? In November, this did not start off cool. But today, it's looking better and better. One weekend at a time, right? We'll just do another side shot down that side. Oh, look how shiny that is. Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. Again, thanks. And go out there and build something cool. Catch you on the next one. Bye.